Good evening, South California region. And all of you that's visiting for other different regions and areas, welcome to this convention. Before I start, I must first say I know it's through the grace of a merciful God and a praying mother and a father I know in my heart that didn't give up on me that I'm able to be here tonight. You know, I want to thank Yo Steve for encouraging me to come here this evening to be the speaker tonight. I want to thank Frank for constantly calling me, keeping me in tune so I wouldn't forget and blow off by not coming down here. But I definitely want to thank all of those that persevered, because I know what it's like when it comes to putting a convention together. Be a lot of conflict here and there, I'm tired of this, and next time he say this, and when she do this again, and all that stuff, but you hung in there, and now here we are, because them people didn't give up. I don't know if they can get rid of that light, because it's triggering, it's traumatizing me, you know, it's like a lineup. Shit. But it's been kind of rough. You know, we was talking about people got clean during the pandemic. You know, some people was able to get clean through this pandemic through these Zoom meetings. And that takes a lot. You know, that's history. You know, the pandemic, you know, I think about the pandemic, you know, we need to have a moment of silence, truly, for all those members that we lost during this pandemic. And we definitely need to have a moment of silence for members that are here present tonight that has lost a loved one because of this COVID violence, you know. Because see, as long as we speak their name, they live. When we stop speaking their names, they die forever. You know, so let's just have a moment aside to reflect on the state of our nation, those loved ones we lost through this pandemic, and those that's probably struggling right now or got a loved one on a bed in a hospital or somewhere now just struggling. Let's just have that moment of silence, please. Again, I'm Benny L. I'm also Benny Lee, the same person. Some people think I'm two different people. Yeah. You know, my story is not unique. You know, when I first heard the message of Narcotics Anonymous, I was not impressed with it. I wasn't. I was sitting in the Cook County Jail in Chicago, trying to plot my way to avoid going to the joint for the 4th time. And these guys would come in and interrupt our Sundays because, man, I ain't getting money orders. So I couldn't wait for them to leave, so I made me some dice out of some soap. And we was in a treatment part of the county jail, you know, the treatment part. You know, you go through there and then the judge can mandate you to treatment. I made me some craps out of the soap, out of the soap. And, you know, I used to play craps, you know. You pitch it to the square, some H35, 6/8 flats, miss out dead deuces, scoop shots, you know. I cheat. And I made a regular pair of craps, and I made a pair of H35s also, too. So I'm popping guys for their commissary. See, I was in treatment, but I wasn't in recovery. And these brothers would interrupt our day coming talking about how they done lost their wives and lost jobs and ran up credit cards. Man, these lanes up out of here, man, because you know where I come from, you know, you didn't work. No. You know, Mars getting married. You know, we had sayings, you know, you don't have children are handicapped to your game. You know, where I come from, how many of y'all know there ain't no rules in the crowd that don't play fair? And so that's the crowd I come from. See, I just walked off 3 years on death row. Yeah, I used to be a gang leader in Chicago. You know, Google me. Yeah. Seriously. I was a gang leader in Chicago. I just walked off 3 years on death row, faced with 15 counts of murder to attempt murder mob action. And was trying to avoid going back to the joint for the 4th time. And just so happened I was in a cell with a guy I used to play with. I used to pick pockets. And he said he had got mandated a treatment. And I thought treatment means you couldn't handle your high and you went crazy and they sent you to the crazy house or something. And then we talked about one of our homeboys that had got treatment and got married and was working a job and had his own apartment. That's out of character for where I come from, right? So we on the deck and I see the new guys coming in, this brother dragging his blanket. I said, man, that look just like Little Larry, the guy we were just talking about. I said, man, what happened, man? He said he relapsed. I didn't understand relapse. I thought maybe he done went crazy again or something like that. I don't know what that means. So as we nursing them back together and we get to talking, I said, yeah, man, I got this attempt burglar. I might can get a tray ball, 3 years in the joint. And by the time I touch down, I can catch the dog races in Arkansas. And then I could beeline in Cincinnati and catch the cool jazz fest. Because, we used to chase these events, right? Cause I was the red card man, with the 3 cards. I was the red 3 cards in Molly. I was the red card man. Then I played 3 tops with the ball, pickpockets. I was a short con artist. I was the guy who would entertain you on your way to the shopping mall before you spent your money. You hear us in the back, say, all you good folks turn on around, you ain't got to frown about the baddest game that ever hit this time. Each and every time, turn to one red card in the center, says you're going to be a winner. Yeah. Say the 2 blacks say you can't get your money back. Those you ain't bet, you got to step back. Ace in case you chase this is where I place it, right? And that's who we was. Sometimes I switch it up when I was playing the 3 tops with the ball. I became Billy Paul from Wichita, got stacks of yay money for all of y'all, Because this game come from across the sea, drowned by the gypsies and found by me. It's one of these 3 as you can see. The name of this game called the Greasy Pete. So I guess you say we were the first rappers. Yeah. Now I'm talking about this like in 1972, 73, back in the 70s, during the Superfly era. Times have changed. Because in the 60s, people was wearing afros and dashikis, talking about power to the people, all those things, right? Yeah, a lot of movements was going on. James Brown singing, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." The Impression was singing, "Keep On Pushing." You go to the movie theater, James Brown and Fred Williams talking about power to the people, right? People was part of the movement. Then a shift happened. I went to a juvenile prison in 1969. Yeah, I supposed to did 3 months down there because I was gang affiliated. Them 3 months turned to 2 years. I come out in 1971, people got rid of their afros, wearing these Superfly hairdos. No more James Brown singing, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." Sly Stone was singing, "I Want to Take You Higher." Temptation had a whole album, Psychedelic Shack, "I Want to Take You on Cloud 9." People done got rid of their dashikis and now they wearing tailor-made suits, platform shoes. And I got caught into that, right? I was a short coat then. I had my coat pulled to the game yet. I was a short coat. And I'm trying to get into the game. You go in the pool hall, guys is talking slick, and I didn't smoke cigarettes then, but guys looking so cool when they light that cigarette and they puff and they inhale it, say, yeah, cross-eyed, pow. That looked so cool, so I wanted to look cool, so I started smoking cigarettes just to look cool. And I remember getting pulled to the game, learned how to hold them craps, all that, fending, finding, all that stuff, picking pockets, but I had this insecurity about myself. I was scared to talk to women because I thought I was too dark, too slim. And see, my father gave me this inferiority complex. I didn't realize it. Because I had a brother a year older and a brother a year younger, and I was in the middle. And see, my father was a pro fighter, and he was a hustler. And we would be doing things, he would tell me, move. No, you move, let him do that. And refer to my little brother. So it made me feel like I had a lot of incompetencies, inferiorities. My masculinity wasn't up to par. Because my older brother had the physique of my father, my younger brother had the physique, and I was this little slim guy, cockeyed and dark, right? And so he embedded this inferiority in me. So when it comes to women, I used to think the girls in the neighborhood only liked me because I was the chief. Because I would resolve problems. The boyfriend been done slapped him or something like that. They come around there and they talk to me. I said, well, where you at? Right? We go around there, intimidate him and his family, and like, look, man, this is my little sister Jack, and we don't do that around here. We ask her, what you need to do? I think I need to slap him, and then don't you slap her back, all this kind of stuff. So I think the girls liked me because of my status. But I ended up in the juvenile prison, came out, claimed the game, right? But I would find myself in them nightclubs where I come from on the west side of Chicago, and guys was pimping, macking. But, while I was in St. Charles, I got my heart broke. I'd heard things about my girl that been messing around and all that. I didn't believe that, man. I was in denial, right? And I come home and I'm up on the road and I'm looking for her, and they say, man, yeah, she in the hallway there right by Shawty's pool hall, right? And the hallway is what guys play craps and all that kind of stuff in there. And I go in there and I see her kissing my homeboy. My heart goes to my feet. I ain't never experienced this emotion. And I walked out there in a daze, right? So I get on the bus and go home. And I'm trying to recuperate. So I did some research. I started reading Iceberg Slim. Pimp, the story of my life. It gave me a sense of healing, pimping. And I remember I come out of my cave, right, and I back up on the line, right, and I'm in a Vienna restaurant, and I'm trying to beat a Vic out of $10, with the 3 cards. I hadn't got the con to it yet, right? I'm still a short coat. And an old player come in, we used to call him God Burrell, right? Burrell back in the 60s had a pink and purple Rolls Royce, a pink and purple Cadillac, and he was pimping. Right, and we knew this Burrell, this is a guy that spent one of my homies out that I come up with, Bishop Don Juan, Donald Camel, right? He get him the game, right? So Burrell come in the restaurant, I'm wrestling with this Vic trying to beat him out of $10, playing the 3 cards, and he just wouldn't go. And Burrell said, hey, can I play? I know who he was. He a star player, thoroughbred. I said, yeah, you can. And he jumped down. He said, I got my own tools, his own card, right? In about 15 minutes, he beat this Vic out about $500. But I knew the game, right, to hold the Vic till he get away with the scratch in case the Vic started to go get the police or something like that. Right, so when I catch up with Burrell, and he was one of them kind of guys that invested. He owned buildings, pimping and owning buildings. And so we in his apartment, and he give me a joint. I ain't never smoked no weed. I'm smoking this weed, I'm tripping off this weed, right? And he said, man, you got a girl? And I know he a pimp, right? He said, you got a girl? I said, something like that. He said, man, either you do or you don't, man, what's up, right? So I tell him the story, how this girl done broke my heart, right? And he said, man, you got to take that hurt, man. You got to pimp with that, man. Yeah. So now I'm like, yeah? He said, yeah, man, you got to understand, man. Love is not an intangible gift of the soul, but a present to be bought and sold in the market fields of deeds and ability. So he giving me the pimp game, right? This is what you take hurt with, you pimp with this here, right? He said, you got to understand, man, women are like children of a larger growth. They accept the highest flattery and greedily swallow the lowest, man. So I'm tripping off this weed here, and I'm taking all this game in, right? And I'm talking about finding my place in society now. Yeah. So I come out of there and I go with my man, we jumping down, I'm getting the game. By this time, I'm getting kind of sharp. shaking the red car, going across the border, beating Vicks, right? Pimp, did a little pimping, but the pimp part was a little awkward for me. I remember one of them joints called the New Natural Club. And this is where all the players be at, right there, live entertainment. Be some nice looking sisters coming in there. Back in them days, had them stocking with the line in the back and the both short mini skirts, man. And they had the hair slick around there, puffed up in the back, man. And there was one chocolate girl that I liked, but I was scared to approach her. Right then one week, she just came out of nowhere and said, "Excuse me, did you find a wallet last week you was here?" I looked at dead and I said, "No, I stole a wallet last week." I was like, "What's your name?" Right? Because see, right before I went to the Natural Club, right, one of my homies who did, he was finna go cop, right? He finna go reach, buy some heroin, right? And I had never shot heroin. But I said, "Come on, man, I'll go reach with you, go cop," right? And we go and we get off, hit up, right? And we split a bag. I said, "Man, this don't feel like what I think, guys that jumped out moving windows and pawned their kids for and all this stuff. I know it's more to this than this here." So I went back, got my own bag, right? Addiction early on, right? So I shoot that, man, I felt like Jesus Christ. I found it. Now I'm in the game, right? And so I'm in a New Natural Club. I said, "No, I ain't stole no wallet. I ain't found no wallet. I stole the wallet. By the way, what's your name?" Now, I know the game. I know how to put it down, right? Bend her ears back, all this, give it this game, right? And up on the host stroll, Roosevelt, Cicero, get your room in the caravan, all this kind of stuff here, right? So I'm in the game, got me a hoe. But I'm like the nutty professor, Dr. Clump. Dr. Clump was overweight. And he had insecurities, wore glasses, but he liked Miss Purdy. And he was afraid to approach Miss Purdy because of his insecurity. But every time Dr. Clump would drink that substance, he became a figure of his imagination, Buddy Love. And so every time I shoot this heroin, I became Benny Mac. Yeah. And when that substance wear off, Dr. Clump be in that room with all them women and stuff, and then he turned back to Dr. Clump and said, "Hey, I'll talk to y'all later," because he came back up under the influence of being Dr. Clump. He needed that substance in his system. And it was like with me, when that heroin wear, I was like, "Hey, girl, look, I'll holler to you later. Here come my number, call me back." I was like Dr. Clump again. So I had this spiral going on, just like Dr. Clump, another professor. But as time went on, I went from being a thoroughbred, I would get tailor-made suits. I got parts of a Cadillac with different custom parts to it, getting money. Going across the border, getting money, right? And boy, I remember one Wednesday morning, it was raining, went in Shawty's pool hall. Old man Bird, how every neighborhood got a dope fiend, an old dope fiend. Old man Bird, about 70-something years old. "Yeah, what's up, young blood, man? Dick, I see you be coming in and out of here, man. You dig? You better sneeze with all that you're doing, man. You ain't gonna be able to come back." I'm like, "Oh, fool, what you talking about, man? Sneeze me with all that there." He said, "Boy, I know what you're doing." I didn't know old man Bird recognized the first sign of a heroin addiction. Because I was yearning, eyes running, couldn't sit still, prancing. Right? And I wanted to prove old man Bird it was alive. And I couldn't go that whole day on the line preoccupied with thoughts about getting off this line and going to get me some heroin. And that's when I can recollect when I crossed that line and that addiction kicked in. And boy, I went from a thoroughbred to when I say I never do any cowboy hustling, man, that heroin had me jump off a moving bus for $8 one time. I went one way, my shoes went another way, right? Up one morning, I done lined 7 of my homeboys up against the wall with a shotgun, got away with $17 and a broke watch. This is 7 counts of armed robbery. So heroin had me doing some things. And then it came to an end. I ended up on a home invasion armed robbery with a shootout with the police, had hostages and all this and stuff. Man, them police came and that beat the perm out my head. Yeah. We went to court that morning, man. I had 27 stitches in my head, perm beat out my head. We looked like Johnny come marching home, right? Here I am, 19 years old, facing all this time, right, for this home invasion shootout with the police. I stayed in jail maybe 3 years trying to get the best deal. And I finally got it. I ended up in the penitentiary, and I got out of the penitentiary. A rebellion was brewing because of the conditions. You know, the prison was designed to house 600 inmates, but on the day of this rebellion, over 2,000 inmates was there. And the governor came down and said, we expected this rebellion a year ago, you know, and even the officers was complaining about the condition they had to work under. And initially they said it was a spontaneous act. But then after the Illinois Department of Law Enforcement finished their investigation, they said it was a gang takeover. And I'm sitting in my cell, they hit my cell, we've been on deadlock for a few months, and they said, you're on an institution transfer. Ooh, I was so glad to get up out of there. But when I got on that bus, and I saw all the gang leaders that was in that prison on this bus, I said, well, we it. And they transferred us from that prison to Stateville Maximum Security Penitentiary, put us on death row. I said, well, yeah, this is it. And we didn't trust each other. We was from different mobs. We didn't trust each other, right? It took the Honorable Louis Farrakhan to come down there and talk some sense in us. As you know, it was 300 years ago when black men were taught not to trust each other. And here y'all are facing the death penalty. Y'all looking at the opposition. Y'all done lost already. So that forced us to come together, and we became what they call BOSS, Brothers of the Struggle, right? And so the brothers behind the wall unified on our behalf. Then the brothers on the streets came together and unified on our behalf. And the community came together, right? They even took our case to the United Nations, saying that we couldn't get a fair trial nowhere in this country because we were known gang leaders and we done killed 3 white guards. And the state was seeking the death penalty. See, but as God have it, we got acquitted on all of that. Because the only evidence they had against us was we was the gang leader. That was it. And I come out of prison after being gone since I was 19. I come out, I was 27 years old. I really wasn't ready for society because I was 27 years old, never worked a day in my life, never had a Social Security card. And I wasn't ready because the mob was like, man, you know, the newspaper and Jet magazine, gang leader return home, and guys taking me around these guys, and guys giving me ounces of dope and gallons of syrup and all these pills. I ain't never sold a bag of dope ever in my life. I was a short con. I didn't know what to do with this stuff. 4 months later, I was back in the penitentiary. After walking off death row, I did another 3 calendars down there, and I think that's where my turnaround happened in that prison at that time. Because I was about to turn 30 and a lot of young guys was coming down, and these were like the sons of girls I went to grammar school with. And they would call home and tell their mamas they met me. And their mamas would call me to the phone, and their grandmamas would call me to the phone and say, Benny Lee, look out for my baby. So I started feeling a sense of responsibility to my community. So I'm telling these little guys, I said, look, man, if you ain't got a high school diploma, you need to enroll in school. If you have one, you need to take up a trade. Because as part of the street organization, we had took an oath that we would serve our time constructively so that upon our release, we become a more productive member of our community. And I'm standing on this here. But these little guys, they trying to challenge me, talking about, man, we didn't go to school on the streets. What makes you think we're going to go to school down here? I said, I'll tell you what, man, that name you claiming, that's my name. I can take it from you and you own your own. And they didn't want that. So then when they tried to go to school, then they realized it wasn't but 80 slots in that whole prison with over 2,000 inmates for people to go to school. So it was like a 2-year waiting list, right? So we tried to talk to the administration. They didn't want to budge. I said, well, I tell you what, don't no vice lord, mop a floor, sweep a Galilee, or work in here. Let these officers do that. And so Lord Gino, who ran all the Latin Kings, said, well, ain't no Latin Kings going to do it. Then Larry Hoover ran all the GDs, said, well, ain't no GDs going to do it. So we withdrew our labor. And they had to pull officers from other prisons to come and cook for us and clean up behind. We telling our guys, man, don't agitate these officers, right? So now the warden come, now they want to talk, take us to the administration building. So no, we ain't going for that. You take all the heads up in the administration building and you get these brothers impression like we sold them out. We're going to meet right here in the sale house, right? So I'm telling the boy, I said, man, the communities we come from marginalized communities. They socially disorganized, right? We have limited education opportunities, limited job opportunities. That's why a lot of us are in prison. Now here we are in this prison, a place where we're supposed to be rehabilitated, and you got 80 slots for people to go to school with over 2,000 inmates and ain't but 110 jobs. We leaving here ill-prepared to function out there. That's why we recidivate and come back here, right? So now they say they're going to try to change some things, right? But 2 days later, they took me and put me in segregation, said I was about to incite a riot. Because prior to that, I had been in 3 prison rebellions. That was my jacket, you know. But that's the worst thing they could have did. They put me in a cell, and I get in the cell, and the guy that was in the cell before me and left Malcolm X autobiography on the bunk. I had heard of Malcolm X, but I didn't know too much about Malcolm X. So I took the book and just threw it in the corner. Maybe about 3 months in SEG, I grabbed that book out of boredom and turned right to the page where Malcolm X was struggling with reading and comprehending the text, and he put the text down and picked up a dictionary and studied from A to Z. And that caught my attention. And I read that book. I was in the world of Detroit Red, Malcolm X. And after I finished that book, I'm hollering down the guy and said, man, who got a dictionary? So I started studying words. Then I started reading literature. Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Changing Images of Psychological Slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar. Right? Plan the Planet by Hakeem Buddha. So when I come out of SEG, I was a whole different person. I had a different psychology. I saw the world a little different. I started seeing myself a little different. Right? And I told the mom, I said, look, man, we saying we're an organization, but we steady functioning like a gang. Right? I would hate to see these young brothers go through the same thing we done been through. We done spent all our 20s behind this wall. I don't want this young group to go through what we done been through. But these older guys didn't want to yield. They still want to exploit these young brothers. Put them on security and all this crazy stuff. And I said, well, I tell you what, man, I'm through with this here. And at the time, I had the last word in the penitentiary. I was the chairman of that committee that we had with our mob. I said, man, I ain't with this no more. And so, see, I wasn't no jailhouse hookup. I was a chief from the street. I had status coming from the street. And I said, man, I ain't with this no more. So my mob thought I was saying we were detaching from the nation. I said, no, I'm through with everything. So I was in the penitentiary for 3 months, a neutron. No rank, couldn't call, no shots, right? No juice. And brothers mumbling and whispering and plotting on me, right? But them little brothers, man, they honored me. They wasn't gonna let nothing happen to me. You know, Lord Gino of the Latin Kings, he the first one pulled me to the side. I said, hey, bro, I got you, man. I said, look, man, this is between me and them. I gotta walk this alone. And that's when my whole life, looking at life different, really changed in a penitentiary. I come out the penitentiary, I ain't been back. No. I ain't been back. That was in 2003. No, 1983. Yeah, 1983. I ain't been back. Until I caught that case and I was in the jail, right? And my guy went to treatment, and that was like 1984, right? And he said I can get treatment, and I went in front of the judge and pleaded I needed treatment. He said, go up there and tell him you're an addict, right? I ain't never said I was an addict. I went up there and told him I was an addict and had them file this motion, and the state's attorney went through the roof and said, Your Honor, you know this man's a known gang leader, been charged with murder, kidnapping, gang racketeers. Oh, Lord, I ain't gonna get the program this morning. But see, God got a way of moving judges. And Judge Moran asked me, said, Mr. Lee, why should I give you the program? I said, Your Honor, because it's cold outside. And I don't even have a coat. And if you let me go this morning, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to be forced to go take a coat. And I don't want to do that. I've been to penitentiary on 3 times, and I believe if you give me this program, I might have a chance. And in spite of my background, Judge Moran mandated me to treatment. I walked out to Cook County Jail November 15, 1984. That's the last night I spent in any jail. Yeah. And I went to long-term treatment, and treatment was a strange place. You know, people was telling on themselves, telling the truth. Yeah, it was a strange place. Yeah. I went through the treatment part, then because see, back then you was mandated, it was a mandatory minimum 18 months treatment. Then you can go to second phase to the transitional living part, right? And I remember my big brother in treatment, he would put us in the van and take us to these meetings. Go to no meeting. But then you get bored in the house and well, I want to go. I went to this meeting, and Richard J. That's where I met Richard J. And Richard J. broke down all the steps, and he was using language like whiz and beating Vicks, and he got my attention because he was a thief from the South Side, right? And I seen this girl in there. This girl had these nice gold pants on, little old body on her stuff, and she was cute with a gap in her teeth. I just couldn't keep my eyes off of her. And we left the meeting, and I'm preoccupied with thoughts about this girl with these gold pants on, this gap in her teeth. I'm like, man, when we gonna go back to that meeting? And we went back to that meeting, and she wasn't there. And we used to have meetings in the house, right? And one Friday night, she come in the meeting in the house. Oh, Lord. You know, my ego said she come looking for me. Yeah. Because I remember when we was in the meeting, she looked at me. And I believe if you looked at me, you must like me. And we would talk, right? But she couldn't stay clean. She would relapse every week. Yeah, then she ended up in treatment. She ended up in treatment, same agency, but in another site, right? And we trying to become pen pals. They wouldn't let us write, say, well, you were older strength, she knew, give her a chance, right? Then after she had about maybe 9 or 10 months, and then they allowed us to be pen pals. Then she caught up with me in the second phase part, in the part where you go get a job, save your money, move out. And that was hard for me, because they said you got to go get a job. I ain't never had a paper route. Yeah, I had to go. They said, well, we're gonna send you out to get a Social Security card. I ain't never had a Social Security in my life. I ain't know even where to go get a Social Security card at, right? And so they gave me this piece of paper, and they say, put this resume together, right? And the only thing I could put on this paper was my name, the down the hall payphone telephone number, because they hadn't even invented cell phones yet. Yeah. And so the message I got with this blank sheet of paper, who gonna hire me? So I started believing I can't get a job because of my background. But I met some brothers at these meetings they were sending me to, these meetings, right? And they had been to the joint with me when they was talking about how they was working. They'd been out 5 years, and they was like, man, as long as you believe you can't get a job because your background, your motivation to seek employment gonna be real low, man. You set yourself up to go back hustling. So they changed my belief system. Now I'm talking about a power greater than me right now. So they changed my belief system. They concocted me a resume, so I was a self-starter, highly motivated, all that stuff, right? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. So anyway, I gotta speed this up now, y'all. So anyway, they put me in a white shirt and a black tie and told me to go out and find a job. And here I am standing at the bus stop with a white shirt and a black tie on, feeling like Ike Nickelback or somebody, with this resume up under my arm. I feel like everybody passing me looking at me like I'm easy prey, like I'm a Vic. And you know how hard it was for me to just pay my bus fare and just sit down, right? Cause I'm used to sneaking on buses, getting on the bus, going in the back, playing Shaw Khan, maybe pick a pocket or something like this. Well, you know how it was for me to just pay my bus fare and just sit down and watch all these gifts just walk past me. So I ended up getting through that, and by the time I still was in the GED class at that time, 32 years old, trying to learn how to do fractions and multiplications, and a bunch of kids in there laughing at the questions I'm asking, calling me pops. I want to hit one of these little marks in the eye. But I wanted this GED. But it was, the second step said we come to believe in a power greater than ourselves. So I learned every time I had these dilemmas and I come around meetings, it give me what I need. And I ain't got to say nothing to me, but somebody can make a comment to change how I'm thinking at the time. That's a power greater than me. I got these crazy feelings and someone could comment to change how I feel. That's a power greater than me. So I learned to believe in this power. And I got my GED, right? I got my GED and I got a job, right? I got off parole. Then they hired me at a hospital as a tech. And I went back to school and I passed the exam, became a certified drug abuse counselor. Then I went back, got an associate's degree in mental health and substance abuse. And by this time I'm doing trainings at conferences, right? And then me and this girl I met in treatment, we had moved out into a little studio apartment on the north side of Chicago, sleeping on a little old thin athletic mat. And we holding on to each other like two wet noodles in a pot of mixed vegetables. She's scared I'm gonna hurt her, and I'm scared she's gonna hurt me. But as time went on, she became a certified drug abuse counselor. She moved up, became a senior counselor. I moved up, she went to school. She got a bachelor's degree, then she went and got a double master's degree, and now she's on the verge of getting this PhD. Yeah. And she ended up being a director of programs. And now today she's the director of the city of Chicago, the Department of Public Health. And yeah, she became my wife, that woman right there with that gray hair right there. And it was because of the relationship with her that I was forced to develop. Because 3 girls came with her. 3 girls came with her. And I'm talking about nights when I had to figure out how can I continue to bring food into this house. And I can't go back to old tactics. See, I'm talking about her pregnant with she's the first person I ever heard say I'm pregnant. And when my son was born and he opened his eyes, I was the first thing in the world he saw. And I had to commit to be here for him. And all these experiences forced me to bring out the best in me. See, the third step say we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to a care of God's we understand him. And see, the key word to that step is decision. And see, the word decision comes from the root word side. Side means to kill off. Like a homicide, you kill off somebody. Or a suicide, you kill yourself off. Or a pesticide, you kill off a road. But see, once you decide to recover, you kill off all those old addict ways. So once I decide to turn my will over to God, and what is my will? My will is my thinking. I don't think the same no more. I got new thoughts. I think different. I think through situations different. Because I done turned my will over to God. Right? Turn my will and my life. Right? And what is my life? My life is a sum total of my actions. I act different now. I don't speak with profanity. I don't use a lot of slang. My actions is different. I don't take penitentiary risks no more. See? And then the 5th step says to share with God and another human being the exact nature of the wrong. Not the wrong, but what moved you to do this wrong? See, because I could come out here with my public self and y'all see me, but then I got a secret self, a part of me that you can't see. My inadequacies, my insecurities, my inferiorities. And every time I interact with people, those get activated. And I develop what you call character defects when you bring things to me. I'm narcissistic, I'm very judgmental, I'm very defensive. Those are character defects, right? And then when you try to point them out to me, I develop these tools called defense mechanisms. Well, I rationalize why I do things. I minimize, oh, it ain't all that bad. I even justify it, right? Or defocus, right? You bring it to me, you need to talk to them over there. So you won't have to look at me. And going through all that because of these secrets, I can't see my potentials. So fifth step will get me to go down and look at what gave birth to these inadequacies and these insecurities. How do you connect the dot? Why do you feel inferior? See? And once I expose the secrets, right? And then the character defects started diminishing because I don't need them no more. Right? The defense mechanism started disappearing. I don't need them no more. And I started seeing my greatness. So I was able to get the associate degree in mental health and substance abuse. I was able to get the bachelor's degree in inner city studies, then a master's degree in leadership development and education. And after getting the master's degree, the same university hired me in their justice studies department where I'm Professor Benny Lee now. And I'm going to say this and shut up. God is the best planner. We got a group of young guys in Chicago doing a lot of shootings, and nobody know how to handle this little crew. And this agency called me and said, would you be willing to come to talk to some young brothers? I don't know who they're talking about. But when I get in there, it's this crew that's been doing all these shootings, right? And one of them said, man, you Benny Lee. I said, yeah. The other was like, yeah, man, you know, because they done seen me on Gangland. I've been highlighted on American Gangster. Like I say, Google me. Yeah. So God put me right in the midst of these little guys, because these little guys is part of the same mob I started back in 1967. And they look at me like an OG, so they own my every word as I'm explaining to them, man, you could only be strong as the weakest brother among you, because his frailties could cause all y'all lives, man. It's about accountability. So I'm seeing a change in these young brothers in the hood. The shootings they was involved in went down. So God saved me out of all the brothers to be there for these little guys today. And then we got the brothers that's coming home after 30 and 40 years. One brother in particular, he just did 51 years in the penitentiary. Another brother come home after 42 years. I don't know how many did 30 years, and they coming home, they said, man, I need to get with Benny Lee. Because see, they was in the joint when I was in the joint, and they've been hearing about what I'm doing. So now I'm the only hope shot. Because everybody else is dead or in the federal penitentiary. So God knew what he was doing. He was preparing me to be here for these young brothers, and at the same time, be a vision of hope for these guys coming home. And he's been working with me. Now, I done spent a month in Israel speaking on youth violence. I've been over in Africa speaking on reentry. And I've been in large conferences. You know, how do you transition from prison to treatment and back into the community? The people done wrote about me. The one fool wrote a book called Black Gangsters of Chicago. He had me titled as a recovering gangbanger. Man, I ain't never been no gangbanger, man. I was a player. Shit. Yeah. But I'm just saying this here, and especially to you newcomers. You know, I don't say all this to brag, but I'm just saying from whence I came. You know, I came in here, I didn't have a Social Security card, never had a driving license. And I accomplished all this, see. I've been married 33 years. Relationships work. Because the relationship is not my wife and me. The relationship is what's going on between us. Are we respecting each other? Do we support one another? Do we hang in there with each other? If that's what's going on, then that's the relationship. But if she don't trust me, I don't trust her, I don't support her, then that's the relationship. You know, people say, well, I'm going to get out the relationship, be celibate for 7 or 8 years, and then I'm going to get back in a relationship, and you ain't worked on nothing. Because, see, the same issues you struggle with in relationships only show up when you're in the relationship. So we learn how to have relationships by being in the relationship. You follow what I'm saying? And see, in the most important relationship I had to learn how to have is the relationship with myself. And this is where the steps come in. To be able to, in the first step is saying our lives become unmanageable. I had to pinpoint the specific things about me that's causing the unmanageability in my life. See, drugs ain't no problem. They innocent. I'm dangerous when I pick them up and use them. What is it about me to keep picking it up? See? And these steps work, newcomers. You just gotta have courage. You know, you can't be no punk in this game here. You can't be no cool butt. You know, sometimes you got to humble yourself, you have to cry. Right? You gotta ask for help. See? And people ask me, say, man, you've been clean 37 years, why you still keep coming around? I ain't got to be the convention chair, I ain't got to be the area chair and all that stuff. I could just show up in a meeting, there could be a little brother coming that meeting, don't know how he gonna stay clean and get out of a street gang, or a brother just come out the penitentiary, don't know how he gonna get a job, and somebody can say, talk to Benny Lee, my experience become a hope shot for him. Just my presence. And I'm not putting myself up here. And see, that's what that second step is about, coming to believe in something. See, and I just believe, right? I done came to believe that if I just call somebody, I'm gonna be all right. I done came to believe if I share my number, I could be in a situation and somebody can call me and interrupt that moment. That's a power greater than me. This is what I believe. And see, I done made a declaration. See, there's some people here tonight go to meetings, but haven't became a full member of the fellowship. See, when I said I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous, that means I made a declaration. I declare to live by these 12 traditions. I declare to live and work these 12 steps, to take some suggestions, to get a sponsor, find a home group, do some service work. A declaration. So when I show up and meet, I'm not cross-talking. I'm not bad rapping the program. I got an issue with you, I pull you to the side. I don't carry it around and you don't know it and come out in a passive-aggressive way. Because I done made a declaration. So I ain't got to tell you how work steps, it shows up when I show up. Because wherever I go, I take me with me. See? I mean, I done testified in Congress. You know, they had a hearing in Congress about convicted felons. You know, the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution says that no person of U.S. citizenship should be subject to slavery or indentured servitude unless otherwise convicted of a crime. So that put a convicted felon back in the state of a slave. See, I've been out 37 years. I can't become a licensed real estate broker. I can't become a licensed attorney or physician. Certain jobs I can't work. Regulation board set criteria that exclude convicted felons. They asked me to testify in Congress, and I confronted Congress. And so y'all say we done paid our debt to society, but why is it the Second Amendment say all citizens got a right to bear arms, but I can't even own a gun because of my conviction? There's over 120 licenses in my state I can't apply, but you say I done paid my debt. My challenge is, when do my wrong end and my rights begin? And see, what I'm talking about right now is real 12-step work. It says we take these principles and practice them in all of our affairs. And as a convicted felon, that's one of my affairs, is change these collateral consequences that work as social disabilities for formerly incarcerated and convicted people. My affairs is being a husband to my wife, being a grandfather to my grandson. Those are my affairs, and I learned the principles to live by to be most effective in those relationships. Yeah, we can read the literature. I mean, just try this. I'm going to really shut it down, yo. See, my clean date is a leap year. Yeah, February 29th, 1984. Now you hear that clean date? So what that means is, you all, when I got clean, there wasn't no such thing as a basic text. We couldn't reference to the basic text back then. We couldn't go to the step working guide. We couldn't reference to the it works how and why. We didn't have conventions like this here. All we had was a therapeutic value of one addict sharing with another. That's what we had. See? And you know, we were heroin addicts back then. Then all of a sudden, somebody come in and talking about they was crawling on the floor looking for some dots because they done put a fire to their mouth, smoking some crack and all that. And we like, man, they belong somewhere else. They don't belong up in here. You know, just by a show of hands, how many of y'all done smoked crack before? See that, look at that, y'all just done took over the fellowship. Yeah. And see, that's something we got to pay close attention to. Recovery evolves. This is why we have this new literature. You know, I sponsor guys in maybe 7 different states. You know, but I ain't big-headed with that. I keep it real simple. Right, because I believe in that concept. It works if you work it. You know, that man right there, I've been sponsoring that man for 30 years. 30 years. I met that man didn't even have a GED. That man ended up in 6 months' time, became a licensed barber. Not even a year after that, he had his own barbershop, then a bookstore. Right, then he went back, became a certified, now he's a director of a program. Talking about success stories in this fellowship. And it ain't all my doing. He had to do the work. And he sponsored guys in different states. You know, and I just believe that, you know, I done had a lot of sisters ask me, because I don't sponsor women. Sorry, sisters, I do not sponsor women. I believe iron sharpen irons. Yeah. I don't know what to do when you tell me you starting to have issues because you remember you were supposed to have an abortion when you was 15. I don't know what to do with that. Or you just realize you got a lot of pain because you got 5 kids by 4 different men and all that stuff and it's bothering you now. I don't know where to go with all that. That ain't my experience. But that's just me. But I'm finna wrap it up, guys. See the herd is leaving. That means it's time to go. They probably trying to get to the comedy show, and I ain't gonna be the one to hold. But I'm gonna say this here in closing, for real, for real, for real. It'll come a time, y'all, we're gonna run into some situations and we ain't gonna know what to do. One of my suggestions is find you a mirror and look in it and look yourself in the eye and say to yourself, I know what hard times are, and this ain't it right now. My name's Benny L. I'll keep coming back.
Chris. Man, let's thank Benny Lee again. Thank you, Benny. All right, we're gonna get this going, man, and I've asked Chris K to come and read We Do Recover.